Welcome to the 1 to 1 Million podcast, your weekly crypto alpha for those who never quit. Today, we're going to be diving into the market. We're going to be talking about Trump's new meme coin and what it means for deregulation and innovation within the crypto space. We're going to be talking about tariffs. We're going to be talking about the Fed. We're going to be talking about liquidity and overall macro and what that picture is looking like. We're going to be talking about retail. Where are they? We started to see them come into the market in November. That has slowed down. Are they still coming? Is retail still trickling in? Or what's the deal with that? As well as just a ton more with Trump's first week as president. There's a lot of things that are shifting. There's a lot of dynamics that are changing. We're getting a lot clearer picture as to what might be coming next. And we're going to dive into all that and so much more. Let's jump in. Okay, first off, let's dive into the Trump meme coin. The president of the United States has launched a meme coin. A lot of people have strong feelings about, whether they like this, whether they don't like this. We're not going to really dive into all of that. We're going to look at instead the effects this might have on the crypto market and kind of like second and third order effects of this thing. Okay, first off, the fact that the president of the United States has launched a meme coin is like the single biggest green light that you could possibly have for people to go and launch tokens. Now, this has been a big problem in the crypto space. The SEC, a lot of this regulation by enforcement has stifled innovation and growth within the crypto space. People have been afraid to launch tokens. They've been afraid to do things with tokens because, the SEC was going after anyone and everyone that was even remotely rubbing up against, even people that were like being ultra safe, like the AAA teachers' pet students were getting in trouble. And so it's just a really harsh environment. And we've flipped to the polar opposite end of the spectrum, where now the president of the United States is launching a meme coin. And I think we're going to see, for one, just a ton of token launches, just a lot of built up demand for people wanting and teams wanting to launch tokens who are going to now feel completely comfortable when it comes to launching a token. Because essentially the way the market will interpret this is because the president of the United States has launched a meme coin, now everyone has permission to go and launch their tokens. Now there is some differing dynamics, right? Like meme coins, you could say don't really have value. You're not promising investors anything. Where maybe some of these altcoins and other tokens maybe could be more promises to investors. Maybe they'll get in trouble on that front. But in general, this kind of represents like a watershed, massive deregulation event, kind of risking event when it comes to launching tokens in the crypto space. And because of that, you're going to see a lot more teams launching a lot more tokens. And I think a lot more people are now emboldened to do things with tokens maybe they wouldn't have done before. Maybe attach fee switches to it, maybe attach revenue streams to it, just to kind of experiment and try things, because it feels like it's open season on just trying things, on taking risk, on building great products. And I think what also you're going to see is a lot of maybe developers who are maybe a little bit more skittish on the sidelines jumping into this space, because now that the de-riskings happen, they're going to want to try things. They're going to want to build things. And so this has just really opened the floodgates, I think, for innovation. I think you're going to see a lot more products built within the crypto space. I think you're going to see a lot more experiments. And hopefully, we're going to see a lot more use cases. That's been one of the things holding us back for a long time has been regulation, has been the fact that all the cool things we want to do with crypto, we're not able to, we're not allowed to. This is why we have governance tokens, and a lot of this memes are like through the roof, and a lot of these useless tokens is because people are afraid to do the useful things because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. And basically overnight, that has changed, that has shifted. And again, not completely. I do recognize meme coins are somewhat different than like a normal token, and there is like still securities laws and all this. But I think it's a big sign of what's to come. I think we're going to see a lot more of this deregulation just across the board, where Trump opens up the door to more and more experimentation. And this is one of his core beliefs. If you've gone back and read any of Trump's books, like he is actually a big believer of let people do with their money whatever they want to do. Why is the government telling them what to do? Like he's believed that for a long time. But there's pros and cons, right? Like some people say, well, people are too stupid. Like the government needs to protect them from being too stupid and losing all their money. I sit firmly on the opposite end of that spectrum. And I say, you know what? Let people do what they want. This is their money. They worked hard for it. If they want to gamble it all away on a meme coin, if they want to throw it into some high risk investment, let them do it. It's their money. Why is the government like acting like their parent, acting like their mom, telling them what to do? people will learn. They'll lose their money and they'll learn, or they won't. I don't know. The system, like, let the free market figure this out. Don't let, like, the government doesn't need to step in, because all we have right now, the situation we have right now is people want to invest in these high risk early startups. They can't, because it's illegal for them to do it. And so now only the wealthy and well-connected get to, invest in these AI startups and all the, Uber and Facebook, all this kind of cool stuff. And so they get all the upside potential. But the average person can't access that, and they're stuck with the stock market. They're basically stuck as exit liquidity. When these guys exit their positions in IPOs, that's when they get to, buy in. It's the same thing in crypto when people like VCs get in early, and then they have their token generation event, high FDV, and then they dump on retail. Same thing that happens in the stock market, okay? So this is about to change, I believe. I believe this fundamental dynamic is about to shift, and people are going to finally just be allowed to invest in what they want to invest into. And that's kind of like my second point, or maybe third. I don't know what point I'm on right now when it comes to this meme coin. But I think it's pretty insane that Trump, like, overnight created billions and billions of dollars worth of value in this meme coin. And it goes to show just how amazing crypto is when it comes to raising capital. It's just an amazing vehicle for raising capital from a global market. And I think as this gets kind of freed up, you're going to see more and more people tap into this. And my dream is that it wouldn't be just crypto projects, but you'd see like normal companies, like I'm an AI startup, I'm a bio startup, like different startups that have nothing to do with crypto, but that are using crypto to raise initial funds. And it's like a vehicle for raising capital, because we're really great at that. We're really great at raising capital for a lot of useless things. We'd probably be even better at raising capital for a lot of useful things. And so I think that's where crypto is going. And then my third point, or fourth point, again, whatever I'm at on, around the meme coin would be that I think it is just the biggest bat signal for retail to jump back into the space. We saw retail jump in a little bit in November after Trump was elected. Definitely retail came back in droves to a degree, right? Because I saw that on the back end of my channel. You just feel it all over the space. Like, new liquidity was injected into the space. It wasn't just liquidity rotating around. We saw a burst of that. But then it slowed down in November in December, and then it slowed down in January. But I think the Trump launching a meme coin is a massive, massive bat signal for retail to return to the market. It's caught their attention. I know this because I've been getting text messages from people saying, "Did you see that Trump launched a meme coin? Like, this is crazy. I can't believe, like, you were right about crypto. It is going to go higher." And so we're already seeing this dynamic play out. And I think we're going to continue to see that, because when the president of the United States launches a meme coin, when he's like giving the green light for like crypto, you're going to see more and more retail interest. Obviously, it's not like 2021 mania yet, but we have caught their attention. And I think this could lead into more and more retail interest as time goes on. The final point I want to make about the meme coin is, if Trump was willing to launch a meme coin, what is he not willing to do? Like, a lot of people said, oh, it's going to be too crazy for Trump to launch a Bitcoin strategic reserve, or there's no way he's going to fulfill his promise on this or that or this. But I think the fact that he launched a meme coin just kind of shows that, that Trump is going to do what Trump wants to do. And it gives me a lot of hope for things like the Bitcoin strategic reserve and a lot of these crazy things he said he'd do. I really don't think there's anything like it was on nobody's bingo card that Trump, the president of the United States, was going to launch a meme coin. I don't think there's anything crazier he could have done than launch a meme coin, which it makes everything else seem far less crazy and far more likely. So I think that's really bullish for a lot of these other things that we're hopeful for. Those things, in my book, after the meme coin launch, just became a lot more likely. Now, a lot of people are saying that Trump launching a meme coin is like the ultimate top signal. It means that we should sell now. This is the market top. It's over. And because traditionally, when you have an influencer, a lot of influencers, a lot of really famous people launching crypto tokens or NFT collections or whatever, that's typically a top signal. But I'll point out the fact that, like, in 2021, it was like a year straight of top signals. Like, there was top signals every single week that were just absolutely insane. And you can't really take any one of these things by itself. It's not like a single top signal is like, oh, it's time to sell. A lot of people are saying the same thing about Iggy when she launched her mother meme coin token last year. Trump launched an NFT collection at literally like the pico bottom of the market in 2022. So you can't just take that one like metric and be like, oh, this is for sure a top signal. It's just something you weigh alongside like the wider market picture. And the wider market picture, in my opinion, looks extremely healthy and not frothy. And the point of the influencer launching a token top signal is usually it's because it's peak frothiness. It's because a lot of retail interest has come into the market. Everyone's hyper focused. It's super consensus to invest in crypto, a lot of leverage. And and kind of unhealthy behavior enters the market, and you have all these influencers, popping off NFT collections, etc. But you don't have any of that frothy behavior alongside this. Like the market feels really healthy. Pretty much everyone and their mom is insanely bearish. We've had multiple liquidation events where we've flushed leverage out of the market. So I'm just not getting those same vibes that you get typically at the top, not even close. And I'm not buying at all that's a it's time to sell top signal. I think we still have so much further to go in this bull run. And there's a lot of evidence that points towards that. I also think it's really interesting that we now have a Trump meme coin on Solana. We have a Trump NFT collection on Polygon, and we have a Trump DeFi product on Ethereum. So we have multiple Trump products in the crypto space. It feels like Trump's interest in crypto is not going to just suddenly dissipate now that he's president. A lot of people are saying that like he was just making promises to get into office, but as soon as he's in office, he's going to ignore us. I'm not getting those vibes from him, when you compare his actions. And we also just saw Trump pardon Ross. Okay, so I talked about this last week, but I want to talk about it again. Everyone is bringing up the psychology of the market chart, and they're talking about how we're in complacency, where basically the whole market's about to dip. This is the end, etc. Again, you cannot be in the end stage of the market without a ton of leverage, without a ton of froth. We have not seen that. Everyone has been continually bearish since 2022. My timeline on X has been nonstop bearish since then. That has been the wide sentiment is bearishness. We're about to collapse. This is the end. That has never stopped. We have been nonstop bearish, and we just haven't had the chance for all this leverage and froth to build up. So I do not. I think people have lost their mind. I don't see it. But I was looking at this chart and I was trying to think, where do I sit? Like, where do I see the crypto market at currently? And I actually see it at two different places. Okay, so if you've never seen this chart, I'll kind of describe it for people just listening. It's like a big chart where it shows different stages of psychology, market psychology along the chart. Okay, and so at the very peak, at the very top of the chart is euphoria. Basically, I'm a genius. We're gonna all be rich. Then you have complacency, which is where a lot of people are saying we are now, which is we just need to cool off for the next rally. You have anxiety, which is like I'm getting margin calls, and it goes all the way down to panic, capitulation, anger. Who shorted the market? Why did the government allow this to happen? Then you have depression. My retirement money is lost. How can we pay for all this new stuff? I'm an idiot. Then you have disbelief, hope, optimism, belief, thrill, and then euphoria, all the way back around. Okay, so it's different psychological stages of the market. And personally, I believe when you look at Bitcoin, I believe Bitcoin and alts are different stages of this market. So I think Bitcoin would be at the belief stage, which is time to get fully invested. Okay, so it goes optimism, this rally is real. Belief, time to get fully invested. Thrill, I will buy more on margin. Got to tell everyone to buy. Euphoria, I'm a genius. We're all going to be rich. Definitely not at euphoria when it comes to Bitcoin. I don't really feel like we're at thrill. I feel like belief is a really good place to say we're at with Bitcoin, which is time to get fully invested. Everyone kind of feels that with Bitcoin. It's good to be in Bitcoin, time to get into it. But when it comes to alts and ETH, I actually would say that we're in the disbelief stage. Which is actually quite a bit earlier in the psychology of the market. And the tagline with that one is, this rally will fail like the others. And that's kind of how it feels with ETH and the alts is people are constantly in disbelief. Like, hey, we're not going to have an alt season. ETH is just going to, it's never going to break through 4,000. This rally is going to fail like the others. I firmly feel like if you look at the overall psychology of the market, that's kind of where we'd sit with alts, which is really bullish if that's correct, because that means we have a lot higher to go. Speaking of alt season, I know a lot of people have been asking, are we still getting an alt season in February? Because things have not been lining up the way that it would be lining up if we were following the typical 4-year cycle. For example, from 2022 to 2024, things lined up perfectly. Like 2AT, everything was absolutely perfect. But starting in like December, things kind of went off script, where instead of the market going up like it typically does, it stopped going up, which is kind of abnormal. But if you actually look at 2013, there is some precedent for that. Like we have seen that happen before. But then even in 2013, in early January, it went down till early January, but then it started going up. And we haven't seen that really happen. And maybe you can loosely say that has been happening if you're just focusing on Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin has been doing pretty good. We're at like 104, 103, somewhere right now. So Bitcoin has kind of loosely been going up. So maybe we're still kind of following that pattern. But something else we've broken, which is typically late December, early January, is when we see ETH start to rally, ETH start to do good. And typically this is a dynamic that comes from Bitcoin feeling overvalued. So Bitcoin's gone so high, people feel like they're priced out of Bitcoin, so they start buying ETH instead. We haven't really seen that same dynamic. So that kind of calls into question because if we're going to see an alt season in February, because typically alt season is a rotation, right? You go to Bitcoin, go to ETH, and then we go down to the rest of the alts. And so without the rotation into ETH, can we see alt season? I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Or is it possible that we see like a run up, the second half of January in ETH, and that leads to alt season, maybe a couple weeks into February or something. And long story short, I don't know. I don't know, like on a short-term time horizon, how that's going to play out. Maybe we have alt season in February, maybe it's in late February, maybe we have it in March, maybe we completely skip alt season for this first half of the year, but we see a crazy alt season in the second half of the year that bleeds over into 2026. Maybe the crypto bull market for the first time doesn't follow the 4-year cycle, and instead we see a crypto bull run in 2026 or 2027. Any of those things could happen. Anything is possible. Nobody can actually predict the future. You just got to look at the risk kind of reward ratio. And so my risk reward ratio says that if we didn't see a bull run in 2025, it would still be an insanely good year for crypto. It'd be similar to something like 2023 and 2024. I've made more money in 2023 and 2024 than I did the entire 2021 bull run. Because I've stuck around and I've stayed invested into this space. So there's tons of money to be made, even in a hyper frothy environment. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think the question is not, is it for sure going to be a bull run in 2025 or how's that going to play out? Are we going to for sure have an alt season in February or how's it going to play out? The question is, when are we going to absolutely collapse? That is the most important thing, because we're going to just slowly go up for a couple of years. I think everyone kind of wants to stick around, right? But if we're about to collapse next month and we're going into a nuclear crypto bear market, I think everyone, definitely would want to get out before that. And I brought up many, many times before that in order to have that nuclear collapse, you got to first have the frothy run up. You got to have leverage into the system. The market is a Jenga tower. And the more solid that Jenga tower, the less likely it is to collapse. Now, the more you remove pieces and introduce leverage, that's introducing leverage to make it go higher, the more likely it is to collapse. And when you make it go high enough, yes, you're going to have a big drawdown. You're going to have a big collapse back to an overcorrection in the market. But we haven't had the frothiness enter the market, so you're not going to have a nuclear bear market. The market is sitting in a healthy state. There's nothing to indicate that we're going to have a nuclear bear market. And in fact, every single indicator that you're looking at right now is insanely bullish. A lot of the things that Trump is doing in the market is insanely bullish. Deregulation, biggest tax cuts in history, insanely bullish. The one thing that people point to that freaks them out is inflation and tariffs. So they'll say, Trump's going to do these insane tariffs. That's going to introduce a ton of inflation, and that's going to cause the Fed to start raising rates, and that's going to cause the whole market to collapse. And I think that's the most far-fetched, out there, insane thing I've ever heard. For one, if you look back at 2017, when Trump did tariffs in the past, if you look at those tariffs, there's no evidence that it had any meaningful impact on inflation whatsoever. If you go back and look at it, there's absolutely no evidence that it had any meaningful impact on inflation whatsoever. And my belief is this time around, Trump's actually going to go slower with the tariffs. And he's been advised by all his staff around him to take a very slow approach with the tariffs so as not to have a massive impact, all at once. And so basically to implement the tariffs over time. In general, I've talked about how he uses tariffs more as a negotiation tactic than anything else. He's more trying to get something from those other countries, trying to strong arm them. Trump does not want to cause the market to collapse. He does not want to cause inflation to come back. He wants the economy to be extremely strong. And so he's going to do everything he can to try to thread that needle so that happens. I'll also highlight that it's just very, very, very unlikely that the Fed raises rates. The bar for the Fed to raise rates is insanely high right now. What would have to happen in order for them to raise rates is insanely high, which is a lot of the reason we got the whole transitory inflation thing back in 2021 was because the Fed just is very reluctant to raise rates. It's not something they necessarily are wanting to do. And, they sat on their hands for a long time before they actually did that. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, the bar to cut rates is very, very low. It takes one little scare, one little, piece of data, and then, maybe we could see a cut. So really, this is heavily weighted towards rates being cut or held. Very, very low likelihood that we see rates raised. And if we see the same thing we saw under the first Trump presidency, these tariffs will have far less of an impact, if any impact on inflation than people are expecting, which could be a surprise to the upside and could also, again, eventually lead to further cuts. Now, looking at Trump's first 2 days in office, currently I'm filming this on Wednesday, so I've seen 2 days of Trump executive orders, things happening. This man has been just pushing through thing after thing after thing. We saw the courts lift OFAC sanctions on Tornado Cash, which is absolutely insane. Some of the more bullish things around crypto is we saw Ross freed. That was a big promise that Trump made. He fulfilled that promise. Another promise Trump made was for a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He has not yet fulfilled that one, but I'm getting more and more bullish that that's going to happen. And we're seeing the odds on Polymarket for that happening steadily climb as time goes on. We saw the court lift OFAC sanctions against Tornado Cash, which I think is just a huge, awesome, bullish reversal. Hester Pierce, aka Crypto Mom, is leading a new SEC crypto task force. Again, insanely bullish. And kind of coinciding with this, we've seen a ton of ETF filings for like all kinds of things, like Solana ETF filings, XRP ETF filings, staked ETH ETF filings, crypto index fund kind of ETF filings. All kinds of ETF filings are happening right now. And Hester Pierce said one of the most likely first approvals as far as ETFs is going to be a staked ETH ETF. So that would be extremely bullish for alts and the general crypto space as a whole. I've talked about this before. There's a huge dynamic between ETH going up and the rest of the space going up. We've had in general Trump just doing a lot of the things he said he would do on the campaign trail. He's freezing jobs at a federal level, so no new people are getting hired. He's making people come back to the office, which the job freeze is particularly interesting. I've seen a couple takes on that where the federal economy, or like the government, is a part of the wider economy. And they're actually a pretty big part of the economy as far as jobs, et cetera. And so if we see maybe people quitting their jobs because they have to come back to the office, we're going to see some cuts as far as that goes. If we see that, we could see a tick up in unemployment. Again, there's another reason for the Fed to cut rates. But in general, going back to the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, we saw two pieces of news on that come out. For one, we saw Coinbase's Brian Armstrong, who has talked to President Trump, saying that President Trump's really excited about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve and he is going to do it. As well as we've seen a lot of, maybe not federal strategic reserves, but we've seen a lot of states submit bills and legislation to have their own state strategic reserve. So it's, again, the bullish part about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve isn't necessarily the U.S. having it or just the U.S. having it. The bullish part is because if the U.S. government has a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, maybe China gets one, maybe the EU gets one, maybe all these other countries start acquiring Bitcoin for their own strategic reserves. That is the bullish part. And we're already seeing that kind of narrative play out as far as states. And we're seeing a lot of states forming their own Bitcoin strategic reserves, which I think is insanely bullish long-term for crypto as a whole. We've also seen a lot of action when it comes to Choke Point 2.0. This was a huge thing holding back banks from working alongside crypto. It held back a ton of crypto innovation. This is all getting rolled back. The doors are being swung wide open for TradFi to jump into the crypto space, for them to bring their trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of capital and build on-ramps into crypto, start building in the crypto space. But my belief is over the next few years, onboarding is going to get easier and easier, where people are it's going to be as easy as sending Venmo or Apple Pay to get money into whatever crypto product you want to invest into. Overall, my belief is we go a lot higher from here. It doesn't matter how it plays out. It doesn't matter, again, if we have all season February, March, or however that plays out, right? Overall, the trajectory is up until we have a frothy mania phase in the crypto market, until leverage enters the crypto ecosystem. We're going to just continue to tread higher because all the fundamentals, all the different dynamics, when you talk about demographics, which I've talked about a lot before, you talk about on an innovation regulation front, if you talk about just like overall perception of the crypto space, if you talk about liquidity, like everything, every indicator that I am looking at overall is insanely bullish and only points one direction, and that is higher. That is up from here. So this is a game of patience. This is a game of not getting too caught up in the day-to-day or the week-to-week, and just be willing to kind of sit out the storm, sit out through tougher periods, because we're going to have drawdowns, we're going to have tough periods. It's not going to be up only. But my belief is we are just getting started and we have a lot higher to go. As always, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to buy any crypto or to invest in anything. You got to make that assessment for yourself. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm certainly not your investment advisor. And you got to be an adult, be grown up, put on your big boy pants and make decisions for yourself.